The United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, has been a beacon of hope for decades. It's the US government's arm for providing humanitarian aid and development assistance around the world. From disaster relief to fighting poverty, USAID has been there, but recently it's found itself in the crosshairs, and the Trump administration and various critics have levied serious accusations, throwing USAID's future into uncertainty. The controversy centers around how USAID spends its money. Critics allege wasteful spending, funding controversial initiatives, and even ties to terrorism. These are serious claims demanding a closer look. Is there fire beneath all this smoke, or is USAID the victim of a politically charged witch hunt? Let's dive in and separate fact from fiction. We're going to unpack the specific allegations, examine the evidence, and consider the potential consequences of defunding this crucial agency. Buckle up, folks, because things are about to get internationally intriguing. One of the loudest criticisms hurled at USAID concerns its funding of diversity, equity and inclusion, DEI, and LGBTQ+ initiatives. These programs are often seen as controversial, sparking debates not just in the United States but globally. Critics argue that such funding is a misuse of taxpayer money, especially when there are pressing issues like poverty, hunger, and disease that need immediate attention. Critics point to a $1.5 million DEI program in Serbia as evidence of misplaced priorities. They argue that this money could have been better spent on infrastructure, healthcare, or education, areas that directly impact the quality of life for many people. They also highlight a $70,000 DEI-themed musical in Ireland, questioning the necessity and impact of such cultural programs. The argument here is that while art and culture are important, they should not take precedence over more urgent needs, and a $47,020 transgender opera in Colombia. This particular project has been a focal point for critics who see it as an example of Western values being imposed on other cultures. The outrage, these are seen as frivolous expenditures in a world grappling with poverty and disease. Critics argue that the primary focus should be on alleviating suffering and improving living conditions, rather than funding what they see as niche cultural projects. However, a closer look reveals a crucial detail. The funding sources for these projects are often misunderstood or misrepresented, leading to misplaced blame and criticism. While USAID did fund the Serbian program, the other two projects were funded by the State Department, not USAID. This distinction is vital, as it highlights the need for accurate information when assessing these accusations. Misunderstanding the sources of funding can lead to unfair criticism and distract from the real issues at hand. The debate over funding DEI and LGBTQ+ initiatives overseas is complex. It involves not just financial considerations, but also cultural, ethical, and political dimensions. Critics argue that these are Western values being imposed on other cultures. They believe that such initiatives can create cultural friction and may not be welcomed by the local populations. Supporters counter that these programs promote human rights and equality, regardless of location. They argue that DEI and LGBTQ+ initiatives are essential for fostering inclusive societies and protecting marginalized communities. This is a nuanced discussion that extends far beyond USAID's budget. It touches on the broader question of how international aid should be allocated and what values it should promote. However, conflating separate agencies and misattributing funding only muddies the waters. Clear and accurate information is crucial for a fair and productive debate on this contentious issue. Perhaps the most alarming accusation against USAID involves allegations of funding linked to terrorism. These claims have sent shockwaves through the international community, raising questions about the integrity and oversight of foreign aid programs. One claim alleges that $9 million in food aid intended for Syrian refugees was diverted to the al-Nusra Front, an affiliate of al-Qaeda. This accusation, if proven true, would not only undermine the efforts to provide humanitarian relief, but also fuel the very conflict it aims to alleviate. Another points to Afghan poppy cultivation programs that critics say indirectly benefited the Taliban. These programs, designed to offer alternative livelihoods to farmers, have been scrutinized for their unintended consequences, potentially empowering insurgent groups. These accusations strike at the very heart of USAID's mission, and if true, would represent a grave breach of trust. The organization, which prides itself on promoting global stability and development, faces a critical challenge in addressing these serious allegations. However, it's crucial to note that these remain allegations. The complexity of international aid in conflict zones makes it difficult to ascertain the full picture without thorough investigation. While investigations have been launched, concrete evidence linking USAID funding directly to terrorist groups is currently lacking. The ongoing inquiries are essential to either substantiate or refute these claims, ensuring accountability and transparency. This doesn't mean the claims are entirely baseless, but it does underscore the need for thorough investigation and due process before drawing definitive conclusions. The stakes are high, and the implications of these allegations are far-reaching. The fight against terrorism is undeniably important. Ensuring that funds do not fall into the wrong hands is a critical aspect of global security efforts, but so is ensuring that humanitarian aid reaches those who desperately need it. The balance between security and aid is delicate and must be managed with utmost care. Levying accusations without substantial evidence can have dangerous consequences, potentially hindering the delivery of vital aid and jeopardizing the lives of innocent people. The international community must tread carefully, ensuring that justice and aid go hand in hand. Beyond the accusations of terrorism ties, USAID has also faced criticism for what some perceive as controversial allocations of funds. These criticisms often stem from a lack of understanding about the complexities and challenges involved in international aid distribution. One example is the $15 million allocated for condoms in Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. This allocation has sparked significant debate and controversy. Critics argue that this equates to supporting the Taliban regime. They believe that any form of aid in such regions indirectly legitimizes the control of these groups. However, USAID maintains that the funding is intended for family planning purposes, a critical need in a country with high maternal and infant mortality rates. The goal is to provide essential health services to vulnerable populations, regardless of the political landscape. Another example is the $6 million allocated to Egypt for educational and livelihood programs in the Sinai Peninsula. This region has long been plagued by instability and economic hardship. This funding was misrepresented by some as a boost to the tourism industry, drawing accusations of misplaced priorities. Critics argued that the money could have been better spent on more immediate needs. However, the reality is that the programs were designed to address the root causes of instability and extremism in the region, a far cry from a tourism promotion scheme. These initiatives aim to create sustainable development and improve the quality of life for local communities. These examples highlight the importance of context and accurate information when evaluating USAID's funding decisions. Without a thorough understanding, it's easy to misinterpret the intentions and outcomes of these programs. What may appear controversial at first glance often has a more nuanced explanation. The complexities of international aid require careful consideration and a balanced perspective. It's crucial to look beyond the headlines and delve into the specifics of each program before jumping to conclusions. Only then can we truly understand the impact and necessity of these aid efforts. Now let's delve into the Soros connection. You see, George Soros, the billionaire philanthropist, has often been at the center of numerous conspiracy theories. Many believe his funding and influence extend far beyond what meets the eye. But is there any truth to these claims? Well, it's worth exploring the facts before jumping to conclusions. Some argue that his efforts to promote democracy and human rights are genuine, while others suspect ulterior motives. So, what should we make of all this? It's a complex web of information, and understanding it requires a closer look at the evidence and the context surrounding his activities. In today's digital age, misinformation spreads like wildfire. It's often challenging to separate fact from fiction. The consequences of misinformation can be far-reaching, affecting public opinion and policy decisions. Understanding the origins and motives behind these false narratives is crucial. By unraveling this web, we can begin to see the truth more clearly and make more informed decisions. When funding is cut, it's not just numbers on a spreadsheet, it's real people who suffer. Humanitarian programs that provide food, medical care and education are often the first to feel the impact. Vulnerable populations, including children and the elderly, face increased hardships. The human cost of defunding is a stark reminder of the importance of sustained support for aid organizations. The path to dissolution is rarely smooth. Organizations like USAID face numerous challenges, from political opposition to logistical hurdles. The process can be lengthy and fraught with setbacks. Despite these obstacles, the mission remains clear: to provide aid and support where it's needed most. The journey may be rocky, but the goal is always worth striving for. The future of USAID hangs in the balance. With changing political climates and shifting priorities, the agency's role is constantly evolving. Questions about funding, scope, and effectiveness are at the forefront. As we look ahead, one thing is certain: the need for international aid and development remains as critical as ever. The uncertainty may be daunting, but the commitment to helping those in need must never waver.